Hi. Hello. I see some familiar faces. Good job that you're talking with me. So, hi today, Fletch and to Simon. Thanks for joining me this afternoon to talk about Thrive in the Content Club. So, for people that are joining now, it would be great if you could add a comment as to where you're dialing in from. That could be location or company or whatever. I guess what we could start to do is quick introductions. So, hi, I'm Lucy. I work at Thrive. I'm the content and partner relationship director, and I look after, I wear many hats, and one of them is to look after some fabulous clients like the guys that you can see on the screen now. So, Jay, I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Thanks, Lucy. So I'm Jay Lau from DPD, a parcel company. Give a part to, so I'm a digital learning manager. So our goal is to take our training online, see ways we can new methods of training and change the culture when it comes to training as well. And try and cut out as much paper as we can and be a sustainable carrier.
Brilliant, thanks, Jay. Fletch, over to you.
Hi guys, I'm Andrew from the Gym Group, the digital learning lead. My role really involves creating different learning content as well as creating bespoke content in-house and looking after the learning management system.
Thank you. And Simon.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Simon Morgan, as you can see, and I lead the learning and development function across the Blue Square Group.
Cool, thank you. And before I get into some meaty questions about your own leadership priorities that you've got going on and how you're using Thrive content, just thought I'd start with a couple of icebreaker questions. So, Jay, I've got one for you. How many parcels were delivered worldwide by DPD in 2020?
That is a tricky one. I'm going to say nearly 400 million, maybe more, roughly.
Yeah, quite a bit more actually, Jay. Worldwide, 1.9 billion.
Wow. Well, there you go. Shows how much I know.
That's all right.
But yeah.
So, Andrew, what do you prefer, squats or lunges?
Definitely squats. In fact, we had someone who was doing lunges on our gym floor about 2 days ago and injured her knee quite badly. So her patella slipped. So definitely squats.
Oof, yeah. There's good technique and there's bad technique, definitely. And Simon, I know that you come more from a theatrical background. So can you tell me which is the oldest theatre in London, opening back in 1663?
Oh, wow. Would you class St. Paul's as a theatre?
Not according to Google. So
that's where you're getting your information from. Then
it wasn't Wikipedia. So
this is where, if I was on the ball, I'd be able to scan it and do that question in Google. I'm just thinking, God, is it the Palladium?
Oh, Theatre Royal.
Oh, I knew it was one or the other.
Right. Well, thanks, gents. You've not done very well in that round of questions, but that's okay because I didn't warn you about them at all. So let's go on to the next, the serious stuff, shall we? So, look, tell us about some of the challenges that you faced back in your organisations before you came across Content Club, and kind of what made you choose Thrive because of that. So, I'm going to start with you, Jay. Actually.
Yeah. So, as you can imagine, in such a big operational business, we've got so many people from different locations, different departments, all specialising in different things, and there wasn't no real consistency how we train. Also, we didn't really know what was available to our people until we come across Thrive, for example, and the amazing Content Club just allows us to go out to these departments, ask what they want, what they're lacking, what they need, and then that's when Thrive comes in and absolutely Des, yep. So I guess the biggest challenge was having that all centrally, where it's just you have that one go-to person where you can say, right, have we got any soft skills available for this person? And as you can imagine, for about 15,000 people in a business, it is quite hard to narrow down and get content.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Simon and Andrew, anything to add from your perspectives?
Thanks for that, Andrew. Yeah, so looking at the Content Club, I think one of the key things for us, and as we started to have a look at the content that's available, we've actually got rid of one of our content providers and only using Thrive at the moment, just because it's, you know, short to the point. We're all about nano learning, and a lot of our colleagues, and certainly those that are field operators, are accessing everything on their phones. So for us, it's how do we have those short bursts of learning that people can really take something away from when they're out on the road or doing something. They're not always sat in front of a laptop. And I think the Content Club for us, and to add to what work we've been doing, Lucy, is all about working with you for you to understand what we're looking at, what perhaps competency frameworks we would have in place, and how we can support that better for everybody out there to really help drive some of those softer skills and those power skills that we like to look at, that are the ones that are really going to help people be successful in the future.
Yeah, great. And I'm just going to stay with you for a second. And I would just want you to explain what a power skill is.
So we look at, you know, and it's a term that probably in the learning and development world I think is reasonably new. Power skills for us, and certainly the way that I would explain it to anybody, are those skills that aren't really going to be the skills turning into an automatic or the AI version of what they all are. So hopefully some of the things like, you know, I don't know, dealing with people with empathy or showing a level of compassion is a human skill. And so those are the power skills that we really want to work on with our teams, to build their ability to influence and build relationships with their customers when they're out there in the field.
Nice, thank you. So it's more about human skills then, where you'll be really pleased to know that we've got some extra great content coming out around all of that to address that. So and Andrew, I'm going to let you answer this question.
Yeah, I mean, very similar to Simon. I'm just going to really echo what he just mentioned. So we were using another vendor primarily for compliance training, with a few other titles which they had to offer around customer service. But we did find that it was very video led. It wasn't interactive. The content in each title was about 30 to 40 minutes long. It wasn't reflective of our environment. It was very corporate and very much like a talking head, video-led based training. So we also had to get credits in order to make other courses accessible. And, you know, we were quite limited in terms of how we could package our curated content, and learners just weren't engaged, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to jump to the next question now, and I'm probably going to stay with you, Andrew, about how you help to kind of celebrate and drive diversity within teams.
Yeah, so I mean, in 2020, we created a handful of focus groups, and they represented a large range of protected characteristics across the estate. And those focus groups led into a D&I steering group, which helped us to launch our diversity and inclusion manifesto. And the manifesto is both available for external viewing and also for internally. So it suits our commercial members as well as our internal staff. And through the Thrive content on the Content Club, we were able to put a program together for new starters, which allowed them to have great prerequisite knowledge around things like unconscious bias and equality and diversity. And therefore, we were able to build that in a program with our own bespoke in-house built content. So Thrive did serve the purpose of laying that fundamental knowledge base. And then we were then able to take that knowledge base and say, okay, this is how you implement it the gym group way.
Thank you. And I'm just going to have a really nice segue over to our club hub. So Nicole, hopefully you can share my screen. So for those of you who are joining that don't know of Thrive and too much about us, this is what we class our club hub, and this is effectively our portal, which houses all of our content. So what I'm just going to have a look for now is all of the equality and diversity courses that we have on offer, and you can see that these are the ones that Andrew would have chosen, and it's a really nice way of being able to have a look at the content, preview it as well before you actually click on it to download it. So I will jump back in here another very, very soon. But Jay, I know that you also kind of had an answer to this as well around diversity within teams.
Yeah, so I think diversity is one of the things that it can be a challenge for a lot of companies, and for us it kind of was, in a way, where because we are such a diverse workforce, we needed more understanding exactly, what is diversity and inclusion, what can we do differently here, what's out there at the minute, and the stuff on Thrive Content Club was a great starting point for us to firstly upskill ourselves, and like with that unconscious bias, try and step away from looking at it as just diversity and inclusion and color of people's skin, and dive deep down into it more. And it's really helped us set our targets for this year, and one of our big top 10 objectives is all about diversity and inclusion, and training such a big thing as well, because as you can imagine, we have a lot of people where English may not be their first language, or potentially even, how can we help other people feel comfortable at work? What are the little things we can do? And once again, Thrive Content Club was just such a good place to start and get that message across. And it's only now are we really building, and hopefully we can come up with a really, really good diversion and inclusion strategy for the year.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I guess the topics are so nice and short and quick and snappy that it makes it really easy to then weave those into the programs that you have going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most, it was about 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it's, really nice, really snappy, gets all the information we want.
Yeah, good. And do you have anything to add from your side, Simon?
So for us, diversity is very much a part of people's onboarding experience. So we really start to share that story from the moment they start with us. Similar to the other guys, we've got a really diverse workforce all across sort of the UK and Ireland. And with that, we have, and in the business, and it was established just over a year ago now, we actually created our own Diversity and Inclusion Council. So there are a number of people from a cross-section of the business, from different levels, different backgrounds and so on, and really just starting to look as a business how we can really encourage that inclusivity part of, everybody's included, we are very diverse, and we'll treat everybody equally. So I think it's something that we really start to drive into our cultural understanding as part of their onboarding experience.
Yeah, nice. And that leads me really nicely onto the next question, actually, because I guess from your perspective, Simon, it all starts from really great leadership, right? So I know that when we spoke kind of last month, I think it was, you talked about your leadership training and how you bring that to life. And I loved some of the things that you said that you were doing. So I'm hoping that you can kind of elaborate a little bit again.
Sure. Yeah, I think when I took up my tenure, there was probably not quite so much leadership training that was going on in the business. We know it's a personal experience, one size doesn't fit all. And one of the things that we've looked at and starting to implement, and almost at the top of our pipeline in the business, is Leadership Live. May not be the most original name to call something. And the purpose of this really is for us to deal with the challenges that the business are facing there and then. So it allows us to be as flexible and as agile as we can in our operation and our performance. And more so, it was a chance for us to start singing about our own leaders. We've got a great senior leadership team that work with us, and I want to show some of their thinking off. So rather than just delivering a session on theory and understanding what it's all about. What we do, we almost have a live chat show style panel session where we invite some of our leaders from around the business, right the way up to our chairman and MD, through those operating leaders in the business as well, to come on and really share their insights on how they bring that theory to life. So if they're talking about teamwork, really starting to just discuss it. And not only do we get to show off our own leaders to the rest of the teams, but we're allowing our teams to feel inspired by those leaders that we've got in amongst our management team, and really try and get them to aspire to want to be the future of our leadership team. So yeah, I suppose, as you know, from my entertainment background, I always look at how do we make things more of an experience. You know, we're all about people's experience in the business, right through diversity, leadership, and all of those elements. And this, for me, was a real key initiative for us to embrace the changing nature and the landscape we've got in L&D at the moment of, you know, that social learning side of things. So it's an open panel. People can ask questions as well. I think some of our senior leaders feel slightly nervous that I open everybody up to questions and answers. But we do, you know, we support them through that, and just give them a bit of an experience that hopefully they feel is memorable and also, you know, inspirational as well at the same time.
Yeah, and I don't think it's an old term. We're on LinkedIn Live, so you know, you just with the times actually, Simon. And I love that. And at work, at Thrive, we've been talking a lot about mentors and coaches, and you know how we can. Is there a way in the next iterations of our LXP to be able to create those mentorships? And I guess in a way that's kind of what you're creating with your leaders as well, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And, you know, and like you're saying about the whole coaching side of things, you know, we're really turning what was, you know, the review process from a quarterly piece to more regular, meaningful conversations that also incorporate an element of well-being. You know, I think if there's anything the pandemic has taught us is actually that we need to be caring about everybody a little bit more, whether that's family, friends, you know, our colleagues. And I think as part of those conversations, small and often with your team members, is going to be a lot more beneficial for them. And, you know, and I think builds relationships, builds trust, ultimately affecting the performance of our team. So, you know, go with that old adage of if you treat your team the same way that you would your customers, then those customers will just keep coming back and back the whole time.
Absolutely, yeah. And I see lots of nodding from the other two panelists as well. So, Andrew, do you have anything to kind of add from the gym group perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, when we first implemented our LMS, we just piled in a lot of content, which we just created from various different places. However, there wasn't really a digital learning strategy in place, so the content wasn't being utilized by our learners as well as we'd hoped. So we looked at our KPIs and our business objectives, and we divided that content based upon those KPIs, which happened to be, you know, for operations teams, it's people, service, compliance, and profit. So by taking those as the four main pillars, we were then able to subdivide them into smaller topics and then create what we call growth packs for each one of those pillars. So that gave the learners upskilling around successful onboarding, using some of Thrive's content like successful onboarding, effective inductions, roles within a successful induction. And we're able to really put together our own programs, which helped all of our teams be upskilled. So there was one level where we were trying to upskill all of our leaders to become better leaders. And then we did have bespoke programs for some of our future leaders. So a future leader program called Emerging Talent, which before digital became more of a thing, it was fully face-to-face over a 6-month period. And now using a more digital approach to things, we're able to have a more blended approach and make it shortened down to a 3-month long program, but also incorporate digital learning within it. And again, just echoing what Simon just mentioned about coaching. So we just launched an initiative called Coaching for Performance, which is about people having those great conversations with individuals in their teams. And Thrive has been pivotal in terms of allowing us to take our toolkit and supplement that with some of the titles from the Content Club.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Jay, do you have anything to add? Because I feel like you must be one of the youngest leaders at DPD.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think for us guys here at DPD, it is, funny enough, quite similar to, you know, the gym group and Blue Square. So we do have a LMS that we use, and all of our personal development plans will be going onto the LMS. And one thing we really done last year is spoke to as many leaders as we could from the operational side, and, you know, kind of just put it out on the table. It's like, right, what is it you need? What is it you want? How can we help you? And we had 5 pillars as well that we looked into. I'm not going to bore you with those, and how we can then have content and things in place to support our leaders, and people like myself as a young leader, as a first-time manager. You know, how can we get the most out of our teams? How can we work together and just really identify some of the gaps we have and try and fill them in? And once again, Thrive. This is where it's great that we have Content Club, because we can literally say, right, this is what we've got. How can we support you? And what exactly do you need additionally on top of that? So that's one of the great things about the Thrive as well, just that you don't just settle for what's there. You know, we can always throw ideas in about what we want to develop in the future, and hopefully it's something that can be produced.
Yeah, thank you. And again, this gives me a really nice segue just to have a look at some of our pathways, because from speaking to you and all of our other customers, it's really allowed us to curate our own learning pathways. So let me just jump to the top. So we've got kind of upwards of about 500 resources now, but what we really want to do is make sure that we signpost our clients to what we feel is kind of the best assets, the best use of their time. We don't want them to search for hours on end to get a piece of content. So what we came about was, okay, let's put lots of pathways together, and I think we're aiming for about 50 a year. So some of the topics that have been touched on just now are things like coaching. So we've put a number of different kind of topics within this for customers to have a look through. They don't have to use it in this way, but it's just as saying, look, we've signposted that these are some really good pieces of content and some further resources that you might want to use within your own programs. And we've done the same for leadership as well. So if I just jump down here, and as a Content Club customer, you get access to all of this as well. But as I say, all of these pathways are very much driven from what our customers are asking for and demanding. So these are just going to grow and grow and grow with time, which is great. So I think it was touched on about mental health and well-being. So I'd just like to ask, I think I'll start with you, Andrew, about how you've used some of our content to raise awareness of mental health, especially over the pandemic, and you know how it's affected the gym group positively, obviously.
Yeah, well, I mean, during the pandemic, the people team were supporting the company with mental health and well-being. Whether the individuals are furloughed or working, we're still offering that support to both our teams in the gyms and also teams at our gym support site. And this involved really creating resources from Thrive and repackaging it to offer what we called our R&R, which stands for Reset and Recharge. So especially during the time where we were looking to unlock and our gyms would have been open to the public again, it was a matter of trying to not only support the teams through a difficult time, but getting them repumped in order to go back into a working environment. So, you know, the content which Thrive has is amazing around, you know, how to build better mental health, tackling toxic positivity and the wellness myth. All of these we kind of put into a package similar to a newsletter, and that's what was sent out to all our teams. And it was a massive help. From the feedback we got from our teams, it really did pay off. You know, our teams hit the ground running when they got let back into the gyms, and then able to enthuse mental health and well-being to their customers.
Yeah, great. And how did the instructors feel about going back into the gym? I guess some were a bit nervous, and some were a bit excited.
Yeah, you have a both, I guess, and a bit of anxiety and not knowing what to expect. And I guess where that's from an L&D perspective, it's about keeping that communication, keeping that support, and letting them know that they're not alone and we're all in this together.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Simon, what about from your perspective?
So yeah, I think similar to what Andrew was saying, during lockdown, we were very mindful of some of our teams were being furloughed, some were still operating, but in the E environment, as we call it that way. And one of the key things for us from a development perspective was making sure that there was some level of support available to them. So for us, we almost curated our Blue Square bubble, it kind of really along the theme of what was coming out of the pandemic. And within that, we had a number of different resources, whether it was kind of from a health perspective. And I know Content Club, we used a lot of the resources you had available within that platform and everything else. And again, similar to what Andrew was doing, we were sending out weekly newsletters to update people and really give them an update on what's happening out there. And almost down to the point of how do you deal with uncertainty when you're dealing with it, because it was all very uncertain and almost a forced change that everybody was having to deal with. And I think whilst everybody showed a level of resilience, it's actually giving them the support to know that they're not on their own. So we did quite a lot of network sessions as well, again, with some of our senior team, but also some people in the business that were sharing their own personal skills, whether they were, I think one of the ladies that works for us, I never realized was a black belt in Taekwondo, and so she came and shared that. We've got artists in the business. And I think all of that happened. And alongside that, we also then trained up over nearly 40 people within the business across the whole network that were trained up in mental health first aid. So at least they were there to be able to support our teams. So it's making sure really that we were looking after those that were on furlough, especially if they are parents. I think we had our parent bubble, or our family bubble, as we called it as well. So just really supporting them to encourage their children to get off their screens a little bit and actually get involved with some activities with us. So yeah, we had quite a lot going on, and yeah, kept us busy and certainly kept my team busy throughout the entire sort of lockdown period, especially when there wasn't much movement outside there. And coming back into the retail spaces again, we were really supportive and mindful of connecting with our teams, knowing that not only the customers that they were going to interact with are going to be perhaps a little dubious about stepping back into the physical retail spaces a bit more, but making sure that we were supporting our teams to deal with that, knowing and understanding that some people perhaps felt a little nervous about doing that. And it's just making sure how we offered our support. And, we've got a great HR team in our business as well. So very connected with the business and really making them realize that they're not out there in the field on their own. Sometimes they don't always get to see some of their colleagues from day to day, just depending on where they're working and what retail space they're in for that day. So we just really maintained that level of open communication with them and support as best we could.
Yeah, great. And I'm sure that has an effect on the attrition of staff as well. You treat them well. So the comments, by the way, please leave questions in there. We can pick them up for the guys. But Jay, in terms of mental health for across DPD, I mean, that must have been quite challenging because DPD didn't stop. They just got busier, didn't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the biggest challenges we had was nobody was on furlough because of, obviously, as you can imagine, we were so busy. We needed everyone that we could to continue doing their job. And the way we done it, though, is yesterday we actually won an award for the way we supported our people during the pandemic. Our wellbeing team, who was set up just before the pandemic, we sent out communications every Wednesday, called it Wellbeing Wednesdays, all about different things. We had an engagement team every month that would send us brownies or flowers to put something to do with the family, even a DPD themed Monopoly, which was hilarious, and once again just brought everyone together at Christmas. And we use things from the Content Club, such as like the breathing exercise, just and once again, when it comes to first aiders as well, we upskilled about 300 people at the minute to be a mental health first aider, me being one of them as well, which was great. And it just opened my eyes up as to, how we see mental health. It's not just about, your not just about anxieties and depressions. There's so much more to
Yeah.
And, you know, for us as a business, it was right. How
Yeah, thank you. And mental health isn't always visible to everyone, so it's about having those communities in place to support, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. What was the award that you won?
Let me quickly bring it up for you now. We just had an email about it earlier, so it was for
Drum roll.
So DPD won its first award for recognising our incredible people and talent team, who's our basically HR team, over the COVID-19 category, and it was all about literally how we look after our people, what we've done to support them with that, and we had 22,000 people vote for us apparently, which was great. So yeah,
oh well, congratulations. I hope, Jay, that means that you're going to get a really nice big bonus from the back of that.
Yeah, it is great.
Yeah, nervous laughs. All right. So I will move on then after that. So I want to just touch on how training and topics have changed over time. And Jay, I'm going to come back to you because I think you made an example about, in particular, manual handling. And my experience of working for a competitor or with a competitor of yours was that we used to create some really, really great content, which was about an hour and a half long. So just tell us about how some of that training and the topics, and I guess that pivot towards more micro learning from those really lengthy pieces of content have changed.
Yeah. So as you know, we like to be really innovative as well, which people don't really associate with a delivery company, but we like our technology, and one of the things what we've started to do differently is try and let people see everything that they need to do. And one of the things that we've done was starting to use stuff like 360 videos. So when it comes to, for example, manual handling, I mean, writing down how to manual handle on paper, yeah, it's great, but are you really going to learn? It's one of those things that you need to see. And we brought out like a 360 video as to how you actually like need to manual handle correctly. And for everyone being trained on it, they loved it because they're like, you know what, this is really good. We're not just reading a book which says do this, do that, step 1, step 2. You can actually see, have a look around. You can, you know, go back and rewind and play and pause and look at posture and whatnot, because health and safety is such a big thing, as you can imagine, and there's so many risks for a delivery company, you know, from manual handling, just generally walking in the right directions, trying not to be run over by a lorry. It's just absolutely all sorts. So just changing the way we learn and people's perspective of it, because health and safety is quite boring, let's be honest. No one likes doing health and safety, but we're just trying to think of ways we can make it as innovative as we can.
I like that. I don't know what you mean. I've always loved health and safety training, if I'm completely honest. But that sounds really good, really positive, and I love the fact of using kind of modelling technology to replace those really heavy workbooks that probably sit in a desk drawer for a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about for you guys? So Andrew, about the training and topics that have changed for you in the gym.
Yeah, I mean, just again to echo what Jay said, we did actually take our initial compliance training, which on the whole took about a new starter 8.5 hours to complete their compliance training. So we took that and made 360 interactive, fully immersive training within the gym environment, and got it down to on average an hour to an hour and a half for each new starter. So there's definitely a financial gain to that. I think we worked it out as 100 grand, which is drawn back based upon the amount of working hours that we've saved. And again, it does make it because it's so interactive, it actually makes it fun. I don't actually mind doing this health and safety training for the first time. It's actually great. And just to add, I think because of the pandemic, there is an increasing need for, you know, how do we work from home? How do we work remotely and keep up that same impact as a leader, working within a team? And I suppose that's training that we haven't looked at previously.
Yeah, thank you. I think this has afforded us a really nice opportunity, hasn't it, to really rethink the kind of content and the length of time it takes that we want people to sit in front of a computer and in front of learning. So Simon, have you got anything to add on?
Well, I mean, similar to the other guys, really. I think for us, it's all about how we can make it a little bit more interactive, less time consuming, and more fun. You know, I'm hoping you've got that message from me so far today. You know, it's all about the experience that people can have when they're doing it, and learning can actually be fun. You know, it doesn't have to be a boring, you know, a manual to read through and show that everybody's read that just by opening it. You know, we want to make sure that there's a level of learning and we can be confident in what people have learned when we're putting any of our materials out there. So, yeah, a couple of our L&D specialists that look after the platform and content side of things, you know, they constantly looking at ways to update that and bring it to the age that we're familiar with. You know, we're all about, I think you mentioned a minute ago about micro learning. You know, we're looking at the nano learning piece as well. And
I heard you say that. Yeah.
There's a couple of social sites that you can go on. I'm not going to name them. I don't know if I'm allowed to or not, so I won't. But it's all about how can we get the biggest takeaway in a smaller amount of time, so people feel that they've got something from it. But in such a short space of time that it doesn't eat into their day. Or I think, as Andrew was just saying, something cutting down from something 8 hours long to 1 hour, brilliant. You know, we're looking for those efficiencies as well and making it a little bit more fun and interactive.
Absolutely. I spoke to Dean from Nando's talking about takeaways and nano learning, and we were talking about how especially during the pandemic, for their lots of their staff, they almost kind of turned it as learning for the TikTok generation, because, you know, it was that nice and quick, and it really it really resonates really well with that generation as well. So yes. I was going to say something else about that, but I can't remember. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I also think the word training as well can be quite, sometimes can be quite outdated and put people off, right? So, and I think the nice thing about our content, and I hope you agree, that it kind of bridges that gap between training and communications. And speaking to a client this morning, we were saying, look, if you phrase it slightly differently and talk about it as comms, then it might actually get a different approach and a different kind of outcome within your organization. So I'm going to move on now. So let's talk about what you look for when looking for new content, and what made Thrive so appealing. I think you've kind of answered these, but is there anything else that you can add? I will go to Andrew.
I think what Thrive is really good at offering is the storytelling aspect. I think because every title is very unique and bespoke within itself in terms of the imagery, the story which is being told, the graphics, that keeps people engaged. Because going back to the previous vendor we were using for compliance and the talking head videos, every bit of training looked the same, it sounded the same. So having that variety and that people know that it's something fresh, and they can appreciate that it's fresh in all aspects of the interactivity and the whole journey, for me, that is something which is of utmost importance.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, just thinking about story writing. So, we've made a bit of a pivot internally, which is to say our kind of 15 strong team within content that we have internally. You know, they're made up really of storytellers, and not necessarily your traditional instructional designers. So we're just kind of talking more towards communications and PR and interweaving training into it. So Simon, what about you in terms of looking for new content?
So for new content, and I think to bring learning to life for most people when they're going through it, is actually making those reality associations. And that, I think, from the content that we've got from you and the stuff that we use within our platform is all about giving people almost that scenario of this is such and such and this is what they've done, what do you think about it? So it brings it a bit into the real life, and they can then, if they didn't know much about that topic, at least have some way of reflecting back on maybe some of the experiences that they've had that allow them to learn and encourage them to think about it slightly differently. And I think what I love is that interaction side of it, that people just choose, whilst it doesn't need to be long and drawn out, writing an assignment in a piece of learning. It's more a case of what's your opinion, write it, and then at least it follows through. So I think it navigates through a bit of a story through the content. So I think that's one of the reasons why we really like the content that you've got and how that's changed over time, because I know we've been with you for a few years now.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Jay, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, so one of the couple of things we look for is short, snappy modules. Now I think that's what people expect. They don't like flicking through pages and pages of information. They just want everything presented to them yesterday, really. So what made us choose Thrive was, with some of our previous vendors, it was quite robotic, and everything was quite similar as well. Whereas with Thrive, it's very much, we love the story side of it. We love the animations and the graphics. It's very us as well. And it's just a range of different styles you have is what's appealing to us. So for us guys, it was a no-brainer to move over to Thrive once we saw your content, really.
Thank you. My goodness, you guys are doing a great job for me, by the way. Thank you. I'm gonna move to the next question, but I'm going to stay with you, Jay, actually, and I'd like you to kind of help me answer about how you keep everyone safe within your organisation. How training helps with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think training is so important to on a lot of different aspects, really. I guess you could say from a compliance side, from a legal side, from all sorts of different angles. You could say training is really important, and for us, it's the range of training we have to do is as you can imagine is crazy. We're going to train drivers all about how to use each lorries, for example. If there may be a lorry driver, but they need to then be familiar with a certain make and model. So how do we get the most out of that? Even health and safety, like a big push on health and safety. How can we make it once again interactive, but also compliant enough so that we're covered as a business, I guess, to say we're doing training, but obviously the people doing the training can enjoy it as much as they can. And the little things like a 360 tour of inside of a lorry, for example, to get familiar with it before you even stepped into it, has done like absolutely wonders for us. It saves so much time. As you can imagine, we're such a time critical business. Everything is literally on the clock, and just giving that driver, for example, the ability to have a look inside the cabin, get familiar with it before they've even jumped in, has just saved us time, money, just absolutely everything. So training's so big for us. As part of the induction, we're looking to make it interactive, and we're just still working on, like you said earlier, when you think of training, you think, oh God, it's training. It doesn't have a great name, but we're trying to change that, and we are doing that, exactly that.
I like that. You've made something that could be quite an interesting, pretty cool, and I really like that. And Andrew, I guess like on the gym floor, I mean, you gave the example earlier of someone squatting and slipping the tailbone or whatever. So you must have a lot of kind of safety regulations to get to push through with the gym group, right? Not to definitely. Smash a kettlebell on their head. And
there's no training specific to no kettlebell smashing, but so it definitely is. All of our fitness trainers have to be first aid qualified before they are hired. And what's great about Thrive's content is that yes, they do have to do their refreshers every year or every 3 years, but Thrive does have content in the content platform which allows them to do titles such as emergency response or minor injuries. So it keeps our teams engaged, especially if they've just dealt with a difficult scenario on the gym floor. They can always refresh on it. I think when we talk about safety, we always kind of get drawn towards physical safety, but what about digital safety? So cybersecurity and GDPR regulations. There's a lot of content from Thrive, which again, short and snappy, not 45 minutes long, which talks through the kind of digital skills that you need to have. And I think what's great is that, going back to the previous question around what makes Thrive special, is that all of these are responsive to mobile, which does suit most of our gym teams, because it's not easy for them to get to a desktop when you've got 15 people in one site and there's 1 or 2 desktops. So safety is definitely taken very seriously.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, you're absolutely right about safety, not just from a kettlebell smashing incident. It's about looking after people online as well. We had Safer Internet Day on the 8th of February, which this week, which we made into a campaign, and I can touch on the campaign soon. But Simon, is it a bit different in your world for safety?
So from a safety point, I don't think we're to the level that these guys are when they're talking about that. But I think one of the key things for us, again, is just making what they're learning memorable, and how we drive safety with our teams in understanding the impact that they can have and what they need to take into account going into different retail spaces. I think some of our promoters may go to 2 or 3 outlets in one day, and it's really just encouraging them to understand the differences. It may change, their compliance regulations and procedures might be slightly different. So I think that for us is, we encourage a conversation with the management team as well, and we give our managers the tools to be able to do that as well at the same time, and also supported then by some of the content that helps get those messages across and realize the importance.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I'm going to jump to what might be my favourite question, because it leaves me on a tangent to be able to talk more about the Content Club. So I'm going to talk a bit about the service that we offer now, and what we really wanted to do when we started to reimagine what the Content Club could look like, which was kind of last summer time. We really wanted to help our L&D customers and L&D teams who were in the majority quite skinny teams. We wanted to help to save time mapping new content and creating pathways. So what we like to do is have calls and really understand the strategic priorities and kind of what programs are coming up within any given organization, so that we can then start to map content for our customers, so that they can pick it up and they can use it, but it kind of saves them time then doing it themselves. So I'm glad that you're nodding. And Simon, I think we've done that quite recently for you, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. And it's been really valuable to us. So for us, knowing what the impact of the pandemic has had, and in particular how people go about carrying out their jobs, that for us was an ideal time. And we've literally just launched, a new a revised competency framework in the business, and really engaging with the business to understand how this has changed the way that they go about their jobs. And with all of that, we've created almost pathways within that framework, and that was very much supported. We've done quite a lot of work together on that, and actually having content for it. And the idea being that we can support people not only understanding what's required in their role, but almost the impact of the pandemic and how that's changed it. So it really starts to establish our culture in the business. And alongside that, and as we've got a real drive of our cultural growth within the business, and really starting to see how we deliver on our values with all of our teams, how it's actually then starts to grow in our behaviours within the business. So we've spent time again with you just to really map out what it is about our values and what content we can have. So we really start to embed them a little stronger, and people start to understand the identity that we're building as a brand.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And Andrew as well. Anything to add on that?
Yeah, so I mean, because we've been similar to Simon, we've been using Thrive for quite a long time, even before the Content Club was available. So I started mapping out a lot of these pathways myself, and then come to know that Thrive has done all the hard work for us. So, with the pathways, it's not just the SCORM files. There's SCORM files, there's animated videos, there's online talks which may be of benefit to do with a particular topic. And then with that, you've got all the thumbnails, you've got all the the descriptions for each of the content, the time and duration. So all that is ready to then place into your LMS, as opposed to having to go around and find all these different pieces of information to then load into your LMS. So yeah, it's a bit bittersweet symphony, because I was spending time doing it myself, and then Thrive came along and said, here you go. But definitely saves a lot of time.
You should have trademarked it.
Yeah, I didn't have that entrepreneur mind frame, unfortunately.
And Jay, anything to add from your perspective?
Well, it's pretty much similar to Andrew, if you like. We spent a lot of time mapping out who needs what and whatnot, and then when you guys come up with the pathways and stuff, it's just really good to go into a pathway, see what's available to us, and not only that, but just offering your support as well with other things as well, and other projects we've got on. It's just it's fantastic, and I know we're working with you guys at the minute with coming up with content for particular stuff, so it's not even just what is on the content club. There's so much more Thrive do to help us out, so I am very grateful of that.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And we have a couple of other questions, but I feel like we have answered them in lots of great detail. So I think what I might do, and thank you so much because it's been so helpful, is just have a look again at our Club Hub. So as if by magic, it's appeared. So again, for those of you that don't know, this is our portal, this place where we put all of our content and our new content. We break it down into the format that you can choose, and I think, as the guys have said, it's a real mix of formats, anything from your traditional SCORM e-learning to animations and booklets, even podcasts we've got on there. We've broken all of our content into topics, which unfortunately you can't see, but I can. But there's a whole range of topics, anything from biodiversity, for example, to project management, and all about data and mood boosters. So you can click into there to just find the content that you're looking for. Digital skills, for example. So the other things that I've talked about as well are our campaigns and pathways. So both of which are really nice, cleverly curated pathways that you as a company can pick up and use in their entirety, or as I guess Andrew has discovered, well, he's done it already. So or you can just kind of cherry pick the assets that you want to use. What we have also done is we've said, look, our content is great, and there are also some further resources that you can probably use back into your organisation to support any learning. So we've included them here. Our content is really easy to use. So for those of you who don't know, it's as simple as clicking on this button here, and then it's in your download button there, and then it simply downloads, and you're then able to upload it onto your LMS or LXP. I strongly recommend Content Club, but also strongly recommend our LXP, and we'll do all of that heavy lifting for you as well. So campaigns as well. So we mentioned Safer Internet Day this week. Our campaigns are really focused on things that are happening within any kind of given month. So Black History Month, for example, and very similar to Pathways. What we're doing is we're signposting our clients to content that they can use with their campaigns internally, and these have been really, really popular. So that's just a bit about Club Hub. For those of you who don't know that much about us still, I want to know a bit more, then please reach out to me or any of the team, actually, and we'll be really happy to show you some example content as well, and give you a couple of links so that you can try it yourselves, try it before you buy it, sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's it. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Do you have any kind of parting words for us?
This is where everybody else has gone quiet. I would
is.
say if you haven't had the opportunity to look at Thrive content yet, do it. You'll be surprised at what you get, and actually you'll be quite impressed with how that learning is created in more of a memorable entertainment kind of way, and if I dare use that word in that sense. But it is, it actually brings learning to life and makes it a little bit more fun. So if you haven't done it, I would suggest doing it. It's made our lives a lot easier, mine and my team's life a lot easier, by having your content available to us. And I can see Jay and Andrew are nodding to that one as well, so I'm guessing the same for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us as well, if you are new to learning and development and not really sure what's out there or what exactly is good content, if you like, let me tell you, I've seen good content and I've seen terrible content, and Thrive is definitely good content. So absolutely get in touch and just see what they can do for you.
Yeah. And just to add, just the fact that Thrive always keeps current with current affairs, and therefore, anything that's happening in the world or hot topics, there's always something there that you feel that you're updated with. So you're never going to be seen as not keeping up with the times.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks again. That's been really great insight. And I'm sure you could provide fabulous references for people as well if they're looking at Thrive. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon, the rest of your week, everyone. Again, post some comments, leave some comments, any questions that you have, follow up, and then we can get in touch. But for you three, thank you so much. It's been really, really great. Thanks for your input.
Pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Lucy.
Pleasure, Lucy.
Cool. Thank you.